ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Thursday Night Football overtime. Cowboys, Lions. Big win for the Detroit Lions, who improved to 8-5 on the season and stay right in the midst of that NFC North divisional race and the wild card chase with a 44-30 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys dropped to 6-1 on the season. And coming into the game, this felt like, must win is a phrase that is thrown around very loosely. I felt like the Chiefs game for Dallas was a must win. They won that one. So this one wasn't a must win as much as it was you'd really, really like to win this game. It felt like a game that, and you saw the probabilities and the statistics on, winning versus losing and the percentage chance of making the playoffs, with each thing happening, scenario playing itself out. Ultimately, for me, we'll get to Dallas in a bit. As a matter of fact, let's get to Detroit. I said this on the skill game earlier that I felt like Detroit would win this game because they were the desperate team. It felt like this was more so a game that Detroit needed to win than Dallas. Dallas, I don't want to say they were playing with house money because they weren't. They needed to win this game as well, but Detroit couldn't afford to lose this game. With the way their division is shaping up, with the way the NFC is, and the fact that they're already on the outside of the postseason looking in. Dallas still has an outside shot at winning their division because their division isn't any good outside of Philadelphia, who is currently struggling. Whereas in Detroit, NFC North, you've not only got to try to chase down the team that just beat you on Thanksgiving in the Green Bay Packers, who have swept you this season, you've got to chase down the Chicago Bears as well. And so it's a lot tougher road for them if they're trying to win the division, which is the ultimate goal when you start the season. If they fail at that, they still have a chance at the wild card, one of these wild cards, but it's hyper competitive in the NFC right now. All of the wild card teams currently have at least 9 victories. So, and with Green Bay being the exception, but they have the ties, so that always, factors into the equation there. Is Green Bay is 8-3-1. So ultimately, when you look at the Lions coming into this game, it felt like their backs were against the wall. They have not been playing well. The defense had been shredded really over the last month. The offense had been up and down, and I thought they were trying to find themselves really after the Sam Laporta injury. They relied so heavily on Jahmyr Gibbs in the Giants win. He was muted essentially on Thursday on Thanksgiving against the Green Bay Packers, and hence the offense struggled that day. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down with the ankle in that game as well. That didn't help matters. It felt like they needed this game. And credit to Amon-Ra St. Brown for gutting it out tonight. Clearly he wasn't 100%, but he didn't look really any worse for the wear in terms of his ankle injury that he sustained a week ago. And now he'll have 10 days to rest that ankle. Big performance by him. I don't know if they win this game without him. He was huge tonight. But this felt like a game that the Lions' backs were against the wall. And I said, Dan Campbell and this Lions team back against the wall. This is a dangerous group in that situation. And I expect them to come out swinging. And that's what they effectively did tonight. I thought that the Lions, with Dan Campbell as the play caller, and I've noticed this, since he's taken over, and I respect this. There's a sense of we're going to stick with the run. And there's a stick-to-itiveness that I think I admire with them. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't have success against Green Bay last week. He didn't have success really against Philadelphia. He didn't have any success really tonight either. but they continued to run the football. I actually thought they should have run David Montgomery more. He was the guy having the success tonight, and they refused to put him on the field for whatever reason. I get that Jahmyr Gibbs is a home run waiting to happen, and every time he touches the football, it could go the distance. But the hot hand in terms of running the football was Montgomery tonight. And if you were looking to run the football, I thought you should have put 5 in there. And I just felt like he just had it going. And for whatever reason, when they were run blocking tonight, they run blocked better for 5 tonight. And he was maximizing those runs. He was breaking tackles. We saw it on the touchdown run. He was the guy that I thought should have been getting some of those carries in the fourth quarter. But they stuck with Gibbs. He finally popped one, then he popped the second one, both of them touchdown runs. So I admire the fact that they stuck with the run because it wasn't really effective. It put them in a lot of second and longs, especially when Gibbs was in the game, and some third and longs that they were able to convert based off of their ability to throw the football. As I mentioned, Amon-Ra St. Brown deserves a ton of credit for coming out and battling through that ankle injury and playing very well. He was huge tonight. Jameson Williams has been spectacular this season. He's a guy that they're going to have to continue to lean on, and he's showing every bit of why they traded up to draft him in the first round. With Amon-Ra St. Brown's injury and just him coming of age, whether it's the Washington game earlier this season, the game against the Giants, I believe he had a massive game there. I don't think it was a Giants game. I think it was he had another big game. It might have been the Green Bay game on Thanksgiving. But then again tonight, he had a really, really solid, outing. He's coming on. He's starting to really announce himself as a big time wide receiver for them. So, Tesla with the touchdown tonight. Goff, I thought, was really solid. The Cowboys got a little bit of pressure, not a ton of pressure on him, but enough that we've seen Goff, be rattled under said pressure. And I thought he hung in there, delivered the football, did some really good things. And when throws had to be made, he made them. The biggest of the night was the Amon-Ra St. Brown dig route off a play action fake when the Cowboys were threatening, cut it down to a one-score game at 37-30. And that play pretty much put this game on ice because even if they don't score the touchdown, obviously we've seen crazy things happen this year with field goals and blocks. We saw one block tonight, but they were in chip shot field goal range more likely than not. And so whether or not they got in the end zone they're probably going to extend this lead out to 2 scores and really put the Cowboys in a precarious situation. But Goff was really good tonight. And you got to credit the Lions offensively for doing what they did, putting up 44 points. But the real hero tonight was this defense. And, yeah, the Cowboys scored 30 points. And, yeah, the Cowboys scored on a bunch of drives. If you look at the numbers, it's not super impressive. You look at the amount of field goals that the Cowboys kicked, they scored on just about every drive or something happened. There weren't a ton of punts by either team. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to think. Dallas punted off the near safety, and the Lions, I think they punted once, maybe once. I think there weren't very many punts on either side in this game. I'll just say that. Can't think of very many. I can think of the Dallas punt early in the game. I'm not sure if Detroit ever punted. I think they punted once. But, there were a lot of drives for the Cowboys that ended up in Lions territory, but credit to them for not allowing Dallas in the end zone. And I always tell you, if you want to know like the outcome of a game, there's 3 statistics that you can look at, and they'll probably point you in the direction to how the outcome was reached and who won the game. And I always tell people, if you go and you find turnovers, red zone efficiency, third down conversion rate, you'll usually find your answer in those numbers. And Dallas got in the red zone. They couldn't finish drives tonight, and they turned the football over, right? 2 interceptions for Dak. There's a fumble by Jake Ferguson. And you look at all of that. You look at the turnovers. You look at the red zone efficiency or lack thereof for Dallas tonight, and all the field goals they were forced to kick, and not all of those field goals. Because you see the field goals that were attempted, and a bunch of them were over 50. I think Aubrey was the first kicker in NFL history tonight with 3 kicks over 55 yards or more in a game. But you look at some of those drives where they were before a sack or a penalty, and then, these negative plays that pushed them back. They were moving the football, and they struggled. At one point, I think Dallas had 3 trips into the red zone, 1 touchdown. That was the difference in the game, that and the turnovers. So you got to credit Detroit, though, for buckling down in the red zone, forcing Dallas to kick all those field goals, because I thought that Dallas was going to be uber aggressive tonight. But a lot of times, similar to Detroit, they got into a lot of 4th down situations. We didn't see Detroit be super aggressive tonight because they couldn't. It's a lot of 4th and 9s, 4th and 7s, 4th and 13s. Same thing could be said for Dallas. There were in a number of 4th and long situations. There were a number of 2 or 3 situations, 4th and 3, where they could have gone for it, but they decided to kick the field goal because it was the right thing to do. We've had some conversations, not the ones that I want to have. I want to actually have these conversations about the death of the field goal, because so many teams are bypassing points in lieu of trying to go for it on 4th down. I think it's a disaster for some of these teams. But ultimately, it was their ability to pressure Dak Prescott, their ability to take the football away, and the ability for them to get stops when they were needed in this game. And albeit 30 points were scored by Dallas, and Cowboys were able to move the football, and there were a lot of things. You got to credit Detroit's defense, because they're still struggling. Tonight was not a virtuoso performance, but this is the best offense in football right now. These Dallas Cowboys came in red hot, and they essentially neutralized George Pickens. He was a non-factor. CeeDee Lamb leaves the game, and he was the one that was really doing all of the damage. Then Ryan Flanoy decided he wanted to step up and become an alpha, and they had really no answers for him. But they took some of the biggest weapons the Cowboys had to, put against them, and they silenced those weapons. And, Ferguson was a non-factor really tonight, and Pickens, which he had been on a tear, nothing out of him. Crickets for George Pickens tonight. So you got to credit the Detroit defense for getting to Dak Prescott, for taking away his favorite target that he had been getting the football to seemingly at will this season. And you got to credit them for the turnovers. That punch of the football by Campbell of Jake Ferguson, the interception that was forced by, I think it was Amik Robertson that forced that interception, and it was picked off by 55. Why can't I think of his name? The linebacker. But you got to credit them for the turnovers that they were able to force, the pressure that they were able to apply on Dak, almost getting a safety. And I thought the Lions defensively were good enough. We'll just call it that. We won't say they were dominant or any of that, but they played a better game than I thought, considering the circumstances. I knew this game was going to be high scoring. I said the first to 30 would win. Detroit obviously was the first to 30, and they did win the game. I knew it would be a shootout. I did not expect 44 points to be scored on either side, but I did think this game could get up into the 30s. But credit Detroit for finding a way to get the stops, make the plays when they needed to be made. There were 14 points scored off turnovers in this game by Detroit's defense or offense. And you see the 44, but you got to credit 14 of that to this Lions defense, because them creating turnovers set the Lions offense up in some excellent field position. You also have to credit them for the sack down by the goal line and almost getting the safety, but that sack and the subsequent punt with the return by 85, who had a great night returning kicks. What's his damn name? I got to get his name because he's pretty damn good. It's Tom something. It's a white ass name. Anything with just Tom is white as hell anyway. See where his damn name is. Let's find it. Tom Kennedy. He was outstanding tonight. Was an old Tom. Derek Barnes is the linebacker that had to pick. Tom Kennedy had a great return after that punt that the Cowboys had from their own end zone. So again, the defense had a say in that. Special teams stepped up. Jake Bates was outstanding. He did have the one kick block, but he was phenomenal. Both field goal kickers were exceptional tonight. You saw some of the best field goal kickers in the league. Two of the better field goal kickers in the league tonight. And Jake Bates and, of course, Brendan Aubrey is the best kicker in football right now. And so special teams was really good for Detroit. And they had some tremendous returns by both the running back and Tom Kennedy on kickoffs. And then Kennedy had a really good punt return. He had two. I think he had the one big punt return. And you had this defense make some plays, set up the offense in some great positions. And so credit Detroit for coming out, sensing the desperation, understanding the assignment and the mission, and taking care of business and improving to 8-5 on the season and putting themselves in a great position to attack this final stretch of their season, in a way that will give them a really good shot at making the postseason. If you're Dallas, on the flip side of this, 6-1, I always say that when Dallas wears those navy blue uniforms, they're vulnerable. Like, I always feel like they're going to lose when they wear those uniforms. If I'm a team and I normally wear, solid color uniforms at home, I'm going to wear white and force Dallas to wear those navy blue uniforms. Obviously, they have an option to wear some other uniforms, but when they wear those navies, I always feel like they're going to lose. And I once I saw that was the color combination they were going with tonight, I was like, Detroit's definitely winning this game. But, outside of that, remove that from the conversation because that has nothing to do with nothing. That's just something that I always, feel when it comes to Dallas, which is why I think they don't wear those a lot. They don't wear those navy, uniforms, but once or twice a year, it feels like, because they try to stay away from it. But in any event, this was the gauntlet portion of their schedule. And for them to come out of this thing, really basically 2-1, I tip my cap to Dallas, man. Like, look, you had in succession Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Detroit. And you had that in an 11-day span, right? 3 games in 11 days against 3 of the best teams in football over the last 3 years, roughly. To go 2-1, to put yourself in the position that you were in tonight, to have a chance to get to 7-5-1 and really apply pressure to Philadelphia was remarkable. I'm not here for any moral victories for Dallas. Obviously, the goal is to win. They didn't do it tonight. I didn't expect them to do it tonight because the defense is still bad. Like, it's funny because Kate Cunningham was on the pregame show talking about, we going to the Super Bowl. I'm like, you dumb Dallas fan. He's so atypical. He's so typical of Dallas fan, right? They win a couple games. They look good. Oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. You got to understand, your defense is still awful. Your defense is still garbage. And although they can stop the run a little bit more effectively, your secondary still stinks. And your pass rush is still basic. And you still can be had against good offenses. And that's what happened tonight. Like, the Lions weren't super effective on the ground, but anytime they needed to drop back and pass the football, they could pretty much do whatever they wanted to do against this Dallas defense. And it's a shame because Dallas moved the football offensively, right? But they couldn't get out of their own way. They had dumb penalties. You had a hand, like Jake Ferguson single-handedly sold the Cowboys in the first half. He had the face mask penalty on a deep ball that would have set the Cowboys up, 1st and goal from about the 2-yard line. with an offsetting penalty with hands to the face, right call, had the fumble. And then later on in the game, he had the offensive pass interference. I didn't love the call. I understood why they called that flag first and foremost. Before any Cowboys fan starts bitching about the call, I understood the call. He did grab him. That wasn't a swim move like Terry McCauley tried to make it seem like he just arm over. No, he grabbed him and tried and moved him out the way and pushed him aside. That's how he gained the advantage to get to the inside and get the leverage. But I would have preferred them not call anything there, right? If anything, just let him play. And it's not like he caught the ball and it negated a catch on 3rd and 3, which is what it was. He didn't catch the football. So if they just call nothing, it's the same outcome, which is what I would have preferred them to do there. But either way, Ferguson had a rough go of it tonight because he had some big plays. The fumble turned into a touchdown. The hands to the face penalty, negated a big play, and I think they ended up getting nothing out of that possession. And if they did, it was a long Brandon Aubrey field goal. A big difference between 7 and 3. The George Pickens face mask that again, like these are dumb penalties you just can't have that the Cowboys had in this game. So they hurt themselves with penalties. Obviously, the turnovers weren't helpful. You come out of the half, you fight, you scratch, you claw to cut the score to 17-9. You give up the field goal before half. You turn around, and the first play or the second play of the second half is an interception that leads to a touchdown, and all of a sudden you're down 27-9, right? For Dallas, the reason that I never felt like this season could be anything wasn't based off of their offense. It was strictly based off of their defense. And tonight, their defense showed that while they've improved, they've still got a long way to go. And you also saw some reasons why Jerry's not going to pay George Pickens the money that he wants this offseason. He's going to franchise tag him. George Pickens was basic tonight. And what you saw from Pickens was frustration. And we've seen this in Pittsburgh. When shit's going well and he's locked in, good luck trying to stop this dude. But when he's frustrated and things aren't going well, you saw him half-ass routes. You saw him not come out of breaks. I could sense Schottenheimer's frustration. He sat George Pickens down for a possession early in the fourth quarter. They came out and they put Mingo's ass in the game along with Flournoy and Kevontae Turpin, and Pickens just sat on the sidelines for about a good 2 set of downs, right? Where they got first downs, they were moving the ball, and then they finally put Pickens back in, kind of making a little bit of a statement because he half-assed a comeback route that got on him because that was a 3rd down throw that he didn't come back to the football for. It didn't run a route, really. He just kind of jogged off the line and then came back. It was like 3rd and 20-something, but still, he allowed the defender to come back, knock it down, and that got on him. He had another route where it was a lazy route. It almost got picked off where he didn't come back to the football. He didn't fight for it. So this is what you get with George Pickens, though, right? You get these moments where he's not, totally locked in. He's not really happy with the way things are going. He can't get into a rhythm. This is a guy that was averaging like over 110 yards, a game over the last month, and it's got 35 yards tonight. Like CeeDee Lamb was carrying this team offensively, and when he left the game, Flournoy took over. And CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens was really a non-factor tonight. And so I could see that being one of those things that Jerry points to when they get to negotiations. And so that's going to be an interesting situation in the offseason. But this defense for Dallas still has deficiencies. And they're not going to fix them overnight. Trading for Logan Wilson, trading for Quinnen Williams, getting back some guys from injury isn't going to solve and fix this defense. Siobhan Ravel he was a victim tonight, and he's a young corner with some talent. We'll see how he turns out. I don't want to jump to any conclusions. Boy, I thought that Deron Bland lost to ACL tonight. God, boy, I tell you, man, messing around with Jahmyr Gibbs is dangerous. It's not good for your health. And Deron Bland, I thought at one point either he was going to lose the ACL or he was about to get his neck readjusted because on one play, Gibbs broke him off something proper. I said, oh, man, that's embarrassing. I said, Jahmyr, you knew you wrong for that. That man has a family that's watching at home right now. You ain't have to do that man like that on national television. You should apologize. And then to make matters worse, 2 plays later, they throwing the ball out the backfield, and then he take his whole entire hand and disrespect this man with a Derrick Henry-esque stiff arm. I said, man, Deron, bruh, it ain't safe. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. He had a rough go of it. He had a rough go of it. Shavon Ravel had a rough go of it in the secondary tonight. Gave up the touchdown to Tesla in zone coverage. I think he had a pass interference penalty as well. He fell down on the play that if Jared Goff was not trying to throw the ball out of bounds intentionally, it would have been a touchdown. So he had a little bit of a rough go of it tonight as well. But all in all, like Dallas is flawed. Dallas is flawed. They're not like when you look at the NFC and you look at how stacked the NFC is, right? Again, 8-3-1 is the lowest wild card in the NFC right now. You've got 2 9-win teams sandwiched with a 8-3-1 team sandwiched in between in the wild card. And then you've got a bunch of high caliber division leading teams, Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, and Tampa Bay is the one team that you look at and and if they get healthy, they could be a problem down the stretch. But when you look at the NFC, Dallas just isn't good enough to compete with the teams that are above them. They even lost to Carolina. They from a wild card perspective, they're in a tough spot. Like I said, they can't finish tied with anybody because they have a tie. So that's not going to, come into play like tiebreakers because they just lost to another team that they're fighting for a wild card with in Detroit. They already lost to Carolina, another team fighting for a wild card, right? And so when you look at all of the landscape of the NFC, they've struggled with a lot of the good teams in the NFC. And again, if you would have told me Dallas was going to go 2-1 in this stretch of games, these 3 games in 11 days, you told me they were going to go 2-1. I'd have told you, well, Dallas is a playoff team. It's not this stretch that got them. It's losing to Arizona. It's losing, and again, Chicago's 9-3 right now. So again, the Bears are playing really well. But when they lost to Chicago, Chicago wasn't 9-3. They weren't even a good team then. I'm not even sure if Chicago had won a game yet. I think Dallas was their first win of the season. I could be wrong about that. But ultimately, it's those types of games. It's, again, losing to Carolina when Carolina didn't know that they were actually good this season, right? They were one of the teams that gave Carolina confidence. It's those losses that you'll look back on and say, that's what defined the Cowboys season and put them in the position that they're in now. Not losing to a quality Detroit Lions team on the road. And I'll take it a step further. Dallas has been fantastic at home this season. They've been miserable on the road, right? Think about most of their losses this season and think about where they've taken place, right? Lost at Philadelphia, lost at Chicago, lost at Carolina, lost tonight in Detroit. They did lose at home to Arizona, and there's one more loss in there somewhere. And if I had to guess, I'd tell you it came on the road. But they've been a subpar road team this season. So again, this wasn't a surprise to me. But ultimately, they got the win. did the Detroit Lions, and they are now 8-5. And I think they're a playoff team. Who comes out so they can go in? I don't know. I don't trust Sam Darnold in the Seattle Seahawks. I don't trust Sam Darnold, but I don't know if they have enough games, tough games on their schedule to remove them from the playoff picture. Speaking of Seattle. But San Francisco is another team that I'm not necessarily, in love with, but they find ways to win football games. So, we're going to see. All Detroit can do is control what they can control. And they got to continue to find ways to win football games. But they feel like one of the best 7 teams in the NFC when it's all said and done. But they're going to have to fight for it. This was a big one. They had to get it. They did. And big win for them. And for Dallas, it cools them off, but they're not out of it at 6-1. But again, it never felt like the wild card route was going to be for them anyway. Their most direct path to the postseason was always going to be the division. That still remains intact. They're going to need help, like Kirk Herbstreit said. Now you're going to need some help. You're going to need the Chargers to find a way to beat Philadelphia on Monday Night Football to keep you, within striking distance. And you're going to need the Commanders and the Bills and teams like that are still remaining on Philadelphia's schedule to help you out. You're going to have to win some games. Dallas's schedule, very favorable down the stretches. They talked about tonight, got Minnesota next week. They got Minnesota. There's one tough opponent after Minnesota. And then they've got the Commanders and the Giants to finish up. So, again, they played 3 of the worst teams in the NFC and then one really solid opponent. And I think the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken, they play the Vikings, the Chargers, and then the Commanders and the Giants. So, if they can take care of business, they may be in a position. It's going to, again, they're going to need some help. That now they can only finish with 10 wins. In order to win the division, you're going to need Philadelphia to finish with 10 wins, which means they need to lose 3 out of their final 5 games. That's a tough ask. It's not impossible with the way Philadelphia is playing, but it's a lot to ask, especially when 2 of those games are the Commanders and the Raiders are on that schedule as well. You're asking a lot, but it's not impossible. But Dallas also has to do their part and win all of their games. And that Chargers game looms large. And again, don't count out the Commanders game on the road. The Cowboys have not been a great road team this season. And if I'm not mistaken, they'll be wearing those blue uniforms, those navy blue uniforms on Christmas Day, because the Commanders will be wearing their championship whites on that Christmas Day game. So that's going to be really interesting. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the skill game brought to you by Sleeper. We'll come back on the other side and get to. Hey, Alexa, stop the music. What are you doing? What is Alexa doing? She just randomly starts playing music. Let's get to the skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
The skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
All right. For some reason, the my phone had closed out the Sleeper app, but we back like cook crack. So let's get to it. And Sleeper is a fantasy sports and real money gaming app that focuses on bringing people together through sports and gaming. Sleeper has become one of the fastest organically growing fantasy platforms in the world, with over 10 million active users in 2025. If you're not one of those 10 million, here's a chance to become one by simply using the link in the description of this video. That will take you to where you can download the Sleeper app. All you then have to do is first make sure that Sleeper is available in your area. It's available in over 30 states in the US. And then you verify that you are who you say you are. They're going to give you $20 free. On top of that, I say you use my promo code LTN to give you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Max it out. You only get to do it once. I say you use the full $100 allotment. They're going to match that. They'll give you $200 plus the $20 they gave you for becoming a member of the Sleeper family. That's $220. You can get active with $220. So we're doing a new promotion in the month of December where we're putting together these tickets together, right? So on the skill game, we put together the ticket together. It's only 4 picks, right, that we put together on the ticket. And then you trail that ticket, meaning you go to the Sleeper app, you put those 4 same picks in, you screenshot it, and you send that email to an email that I give you that will put you in a drawing to win $100 on the app. So we did that for the first time today, and I am like I'm trying to think of the best way to describe the poison that I am when it comes to NFL picks, because whatever I touch rots. Okay. So we put together this ticket and let's take a look at it. So we put together this ticket. It was 4 picks. Here it is. Right here. We put this ticket together. This was supposed to be a no-brainer. $10 would win us basically $30. Nothing too, serious, right? We weren't trying to hurt nobody out here, man. Just trying to get a little dub, right, up on the board. And I told them during this show, I said, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to score 2 touchdowns, but we're not going to do that. We don't need to get too crazy with this. He scored 3, obviously, as you can see. Like, he's been the catalyst for this team. I don't think enough people are talking about Jahmyr Gibbs for league MVP. I think he should be in that discussion. Obviously, Stafford should win it right now if the season ended. But everybody's talking about, was talking about Jonathan Taylor and his early season tear. How many games has Jahmyr Gibbs had where he's had 3 touchdowns? You know what I mean? Like, has to be at least the second one. Possibly there's another one in there. I feel like there's only 2 of them, but we saw the statistic, most touchdowns before the age of 24. He's got tied for Barry Sanders, 47. This guy's remarkable, man. Anyway, had him for an anytime touchdown. We had George Pickens yards, which clearly Pickens was awful tonight. So he half of that, 37 yards for Pickens. Didn't even hit half of that. Half of 37 times 2 is 74. He didn't even hit half of the total that was set at 76.5. He didn't hit the 6 receptions, which we went George Pickens crazy tonight. And then we went Pickens anytime touchdown, which he didn't do that either. So, Pickens basically sank the ticket tonight. And we went heavy on Pickens. And could you blame us? I mean, the guy had been, pretty much foolproof over the last month. So we thought. And then George Pickens decided tonight was the night that he was going to take a night off. And it sank the ticket. So there you have it. As I always tell you, we'll get them next time. We'll get them next time. So, I mean, I don't really know. Like, this one is hard for me to just, like, wrap my brain around. Like, bro, 4 picks. This should be easy. This guy's been catching, like, 9 balls a game. He's been going for, like, $140 every week. And he may not score a touchdown. That was the one where, okay, he may not score a touchdown. But he didn't score last week, so I'm like, he's bound to score this week. None of it. It's just pure insanity. But I digress. Well, we'll get him next time, as I always say. One of these times, we're going to really actually get him next time. You guys are going to lead me to victory. Don't worry. You guys are going to lead me to the promised land. Anyway, and shout out to my guy, Shadow Striker 789. He said that Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't going to run effectively. Dallas has done a really good job against running backs. He was right about that. I thought that there would be some Jahmyr Gibbs, 37-yard run in there, which he had a big run early to start the game. That backward pass was a run. That turned out to be his biggest run of the night. I said, yeah, that's a run, and that's going to set the tone for the night. They never ran him on the perimeter, though. They always kept trying to run him up the middle, and it just was to no avail. I always felt like if they got him on the perimeter, if they got him on the edge, some sort of toss, some sort of sweep, some sort of misdirection, they would have had some success. They just never did. They just kept trying to get up in between the tackles, and Dallas just wasn't having that. Not with him. With Montgomery, they were having all types of success. He was the guy that was absolutely killing this Dallas defense on the ground for whatever reason. But in any event, shout out to Shadow Striker 789. You were all over that. So that's the skill game, brought to you by Sleeper.
The skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
All right, so let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say, and then we will get out of here. So, my guy, John Cedillo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, John, writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, John? One of my favorite Cowboy fans." He writes, "Well, that was fun to daydream about the playoffs for a hot second." Yeah, with Cowboys fans, sometimes they get too carried away. And sometimes you have to bring them crashing back down to earth. My dad is a Cowboys fan, as you guys know. And I was talking to Boss Man prior to the game, getting his picks for the week. And, he felt like they were going to win the game tonight. And as he should have, he's supremely confident right now in his team. And he has every right to be with the way that they've been playing football here of late. But you forget very quickly, because of what you did against a bad Philadelphia offense, and what you were able to do against a Kansas City offense that hasn't been great this season either, you forget very quickly that this defense is still not good. And now you finally go up against an offense that can exploit that defense, and you got brought back to reality. And so John says, "It was fun to daydream about the playoffs for a hot second. It's fitting that when the moment came, the defense showed itself to be a liability." Yeah, that's exactly my sentiment. You thought that you had a shot. The defense seemed to be improved. But again, you got to understand, improved from where? This defense was improved from being the worst defense in football by a mile. Cincinnati was doing their best to catch up, but this Dallas defense had them beat by a mile, a country mile. So improving, all it meant was we're no longer the laughing stock of the NFL from a defensive standpoint. You're still not good defensively. And while you're not giving up chunks of yardage on the ground anymore, you're still very susceptible in the pass game. Like I've said before, Deron Bland is great at taking the football away, but he's a basic corner, right? Chavon Revel, he is a young corner. I'm jury's still out on him. I wasn't a big fan of his coming out of James Madison, but East Carolina. I wasn't a massive fan of his prior to the injury, but we'll see. He's got a lot of intangibles. He's got the height and the length and all that stuff that you're looking for. We'll see what he turns out to be for the Dallas Cowboys. But there's that secondary, there's deficiencies. The pass rush still leaves a lot to be desired. And, the linebackers are I'm probably being nice, average at best. We'll see what Overshown ends up being. If he can get back to what he once was, then that'll vastly improve the linebacking core. But right now, that they're a liability as well. So, yeah, the defense showed their true colors tonight. Am I surprised? No, not at all. But here, as much as you want to kill the defense, the offense can't have penalties and can't turn the ball over 3 times, right? And forget the last interception Dak just threw at the end. The interception to start the second half and the fumble by Ferguson. You can't have it. You can't have a near safety and punt the ball and give the Lions great field position that they're able to capitalize off of. You can't do those things and expect to win. If you look at just those 3 situations, the Ferguson fumble, touchdown shortly thereafter, the Dak interception to Derek Barnes, a touchdown shortly thereafter, the Dak sack down on the goal line that was almost a safety, and the subsequent punt, a touchdown shortly thereafter. Those are like this defense, not making excuses for them, but you can't put them in those positions. They're not good enough. The special teams wasn't good tonight. You gave up too many big returns that gave the Lions short fields. How many times did the Lions start around or in Dallas territory? How many times did they start around midfield or in Dallas territory, in plus territory? Whether it was a turnover, a punt, or special teams giving up a massive kickoff return. Like, this defense isn't good enough to where you can be putting them in positions where they only have 52 yards of field to defend. They're not good enough to be defending, 48 yards of grass, 12 yards of grass. I think that interception got returned down to the Cowboys' 14-yard line or something like that. They're not good enough for that type of stuff. So you also got to look at the other aspects of this team not holding up their end of the bargain too, John. John Cedillo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I'll say this. When the collective narrative is that Dallas can't win a game, we seem to show up with our best effort. Once expectations are hoisted on them, they don't know how to act. That is some powerful stuff, John. Very, very powerful. I feel the same way about my team. Right. Anytime we put, like, this season, I felt that way. Like, okay, let's see. Now that people expect us to be good, the fans expect a winning season. Now it's easy when you got nothing to lose, and with Dallas, there's never a situation where the spotlight's not on you. Your owner will never, as long as he's alive, he will never allow for the spotlight not to be on Dallas. So there's no such thing as Dallas going under the radar, because Jerry's going to always make sure that the Cowboys are relevant for a reason, whether good or bad. He's going to make sure that they're in the news, right? But like you said, after you guys lost to Arizona, I think everybody pretty much left you for dead. Like, okay, they're not serious. And I think you went on your bye week after that. You came off your bye. You beat the Raiders. Whoop did he do? No one cares. You beat the Raiders, right? But then you started to, get some momentum, and then you beat Philadelphia, and then you beat Kansas City, and you're like, wait a minute. This team was just 3-5-1 after the loss to Arizona, left for dead, and now they're 6-5-1. And they just beat 2 really good opponents in a row. Look out. And so I think the fan base got sucked in, and said, okay, yeah, here we go. All right. This is our year, right? They fell into the trap. And those expectations were placed on them. And they were a little too heavy. Again, this is not a good road team. This is not a good defense. And I didn't think the offense was great tonight either. You know, you put a lot on the defense, and rightfully so, because you gave 44 points tonight, but the offense was a part of that 44 points given up with the turnovers. The defense was the special teams was a part of the 44 points given up. And then, hey, how about the offense not fail in the red zone and have to settle for 18 field goals tonight? How about they don't do that? You know the defense isn't good. You know the defense can't be put in these situations, so you can't be turning it over and you can't be settling for field goals. But they did that tonight. Offensive line wasn't good tonight. I know you had a backup left tackle in there. I don't think Guyton's good any goddamn way, but that's besides the point. You had backup left tackle in there. He was getting his ass whooped tonight. And Terrence Steele, you know, he's a basic right tackle. And Dak was under pressure. And I remember Boss was saying how proud he was and how impressed he was with the offensive line against Kansas City and Philadelphia. Like, oh, man, those teams have good fronts. And Dak had time, this, that, and the third. Well, I'm going to ask him about the offensive line tonight because they weren't very good tonight. They weren't very good at all tonight. So, yeah, the expectations were just a bit too much for them to bear tonight, and it showed. But, again, if you're Dallas, the season's not over. Again, I said the must-win game was Kansas City, and you won that game. You weren't getting a wild card. That was really never in the cards. So it's not like losing to another NFC opponent is going to tank your opportunity to get to the postseason. You weren't getting in as a wild card anyway. Your ticket to the postseason is and always has been the division. And if you're getting in, that's how you're going to do it. And at 6-1, you still got a shot. You just need more help now. You were in a position where all you had to do was pretty much win, right? You win tonight. You win against the Vikings next week, the Chargers, and then you got the Commanders and the Giants to finish up. You could have – Kirk Herbstreit was like, hey, if they win tonight, I could see them getting, to 11, 5-1. And then, Philadelphia's in trouble at that point. Well, you still got a chance to win the 4 remaining games on the schedule. That'll get you to 10. That'll get you to 10. The Eagles aren't playing good football right now. They could lose to the Chargers. They could lose to the Bills. And then all you would need them to do is lose one of those Commanders games. It could happen, right? Then they're 10-6 or 10-7, excuse me. Then you win the division. It's not over, but shit's got tight now, right? Things have gotten tight because you can only win 10 games. You can only win 10 games. So now you turn into a cheerleader for every opponent that's playing the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what tonight has done, is it effectively has turned you into a cheerleader. Is you needed minimal help. You needed minimal help before tonight's loss. Now you need help. You need real help. But you first have to help yourself by winning games. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I do have to say, Aubrey is ridiculous, man. What a weapon the Cowboys have in Aubrey. Man. First NFL kicker in history to drill 3 kicks of 55 yards or longer in a single game. The dude is absurd. That 63-yarder was good from 66. That thing had 3 more yards of real estate on it on the back end when they showed the angle from the side view. That thing didn't just barely clear the bar. That thing cleared the bar by another 3 yards or so. He's ridiculous, man. He's a weapon. And you cross midfield and you're in field goal range, basically. Like, he's a cheat code, man. He's a cheat code. Wow. I'm in awe of Aubrey. I really am. I'm in awe of his ability. And he makes it look effortless. He's just swinging the leg, man. That's it. He didn't look like he's driving the ball. Most of these kickers, it comes out lower. They got to put everything they got. His just is a smooth swing. It's like Steph Curry shooting a three from 40 feet away from the basket, and it's just a flick of the wrist for Steph. Some guys got to lean into it. They got to shoot a really hard shot to get it there, and Steph is just regular shot, bro. That's Brendan Auburn. Shit is crazy, bro. It's wild. But as I always tell y'all, field goals don't win games. Touchdowns do, and they kicked way too many field goals to beat the Detroit Lions tonight, who get the win 44-30. 8-5 for the Lions. I think the Lions are one of the best 7 teams in football. Now, you know, 2 big injuries in this game, one for each side. You had CeeDee Lamb leave the game with a concussion, and that was clearly a concussion. And I know he was disappointed that he couldn't go back in, but you know, the shit he was doing after he hit the ground, I knew he wasn't right. And that's always scary when you see guys have like involuntary movement. He was moving his arms, but he wasn't controlling them. I was like, yo, stay down, bro. And there were 2 nasty concussions. The one for the Lions, the safety, number 12 early in the game, he was trying to get up, and that shit looked like a game glitching. It was nasty to see. Glad he was able to get up, though, with some assistance. And then obviously on the Lions side, Brian Branch leaving the game with the ankle injury, having to be carted off on the sidelines. That's a significant blow for them if he can't, you know, if that's a serious injury. They're already without Kirby Joseph. He's got to be coming back here shortly, but you don't want to tag one in and tag the other out, right? But that may be what's happening here with Detroit. They've got so many injuries to that secondary. Terrion Arnold is already out for the season. They've continued to put Band-Aids and all kinds of, you know, ace bandages and Band-Aid solutions and all kinds of things on that secondary. But at some point, you run out of, you know, appendages. And I don't know. We'll see. But they got it done tonight, 44-30. Move to 8-5. Stay within striking distance in the division. Stay within striking distance of the wild card. Meanwhile, Dallas drops to 6-1, back to 500, and now they await the outcome of the Monday night game with the Eagles and Chargers. If the Chargers can win that game, the Cowboys stay within striking distance of the Eagles. With the Eagles win, however, the Cowboys grow that much further away from postseason hope. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. How about them Cowboys?